You're listening to Brandon Sports Talk, interviewing professional athletes and Paralympians and Olympians. And now for your professional athlete interview and your host, Brandon P.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the USA Paralympian para track and field, David Brown. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in competing in track and field?
Well, I grew up playing sports, and when I got into running, track and field was just another avenue that can help me continue to stay in shape and I guess you could say compete against my friends because I was able at that time to see where I was going and run around the playground and running around the track at that time. So, I mean, when the door opened up for me to do track, it was either, pursue a Paralympic career or sit at home and figure out what I wanted to do with my life.
How is it like obviously getting started first in wrestling and goalball before you became a track and field athlete?
So I was doing track and field alongside wrestling and go ball in high school. And honestly, I loved go ball and wrestling more than I loved track. I hated track at that time. And so I was just doing track to help me stay in shape for go ball and wrestling. But it was one of them things where the door opened up for me to go further in track and field. So I ended up taking that direction opposed to continuing on in go ball or wrestling higher up kind of a future.
Of course, getting into collegiate athletics, how did you know that, as you said, you wanted to pursue track and field versus saying, I'm going to pursue goalball?
So I didn't get a chance to do collegiate athletics. Go ball, I was doing just through high school. And there was something that was said to me when I was going through high school from one of the coaches that was helping our team out. They were like, keep in mind, there's only 6 slots. I'm like, that's true. There's only 6 slots. I didn't necessarily want it to go for track, but I was like, maybe go ball is not something that I would want to go for because the chance of me making it is a lot slimmer, if that makes any sense.
What was it like getting to make the Paralympic team for the track?
So when I made my first team in London 2012, it was mind blowing to me because 4 years prior to that, that's when I learned about the Paralympics and how big it was. And that's actually when I had the desire to do track because I saw what was going on in Beijing, China, and the Paralympic athletes that were there and what they were doing. And I got to experience that. Anybody can look up, that information online as far as like how I got to go to Beijing. That's everywhere, honestly. But after I realized, hey, this is something that's high level, high competition, something that I can do. I want to try for that. And to be on that field 4 years later was just like, man, I can do anything. I know I can now. I just got to go for it.
What was that feeling like as a fan going to the 2008 Paralympics in Beijing?
Honestly, as a fan, it was it was a great experience because I never up until that point been out of the country. So to be able to go to Beijing and experience the culture and then just realize, hey, there's sport beyond high school, you could say. And not only that, there's this high level of disability sport gave me a future to look forward to. And like I said, hey, London, I want to go there. And to be a fan there and then witness all those sports, I was like, gosh, I went to a blind school, so all I knew was just blindness. And I ran in a lot of, as you could say, blind circles. So a lot of blind and visually impaired individuals. I didn't know too much about amputations or wheelchair athletes and stuff like that. I'm like, I didn't know what they could do or what they couldn't do and stuff like that. And then when I was exposed to it, it wasn't on that high level of competition. So when I saw that too, I was also like, dang, this is crazy. Like I didn't know that they can do seated volleyball or rugby and all this other stuff. Like it was just mind-boggling to me.
What was the process like training for your first Paralympics to go to London in 2012?
So my my training honestly was a combination of just doing track through high school, me training by myself, looking up things online as far as like YouTube videos or articles, things of that nature. I played a lot of the Wii because they had, Sonic Racing, and I used that to help, build my strength up in my arms a lot of the time. Boxing, Wii bowling, I'm just telling you my process. You know what I'm saying? A lot of like high knees, fast feet stuff. I did that at home. And then I actually went to live full time at the Trilla Vista Elite Athlete Training Center, formerly known as the Olympic Training Center, where I train now to this day. I moved out there in 2012. And after that, my training was just, they were actually gearing me up to go to Rio. They weren't expecting me to go to London. I only had 6 weeks to get ready for our Paralympic trials. So London didn't seem like a hope for me or a make. It was just like, all right, let's get this kid ready for Rio. But I ended up making a team to go to London, which blew my coach's mind, our director's mind at that time. And it was just like, yeah, this kid got a future.
Of course, making that team in London and going to London, what was that like going to London and being the fastest in 2012 at London?
Well, I wasn't really the fastest in London. I got out of the semifinals in the 100 meters as well as the 200 meters. So my first games, I was like, I want to say devastated. I was, like I said earlier, mind blown by the fact that I was even there in the first place, and to make it that far. The commentators actually, if you go and look up the semifinals when I was in it, they said themselves, they were like, keep an eye on David Brown. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future. And I already had that in my mind. I'm like, okay, I'm done here in London, whatever, but I'm already looking towards the future in the sense of next year or even the season after that. I'm always thinking like seasons ahead, even before the season was over. So I was like, you know what? It's all good. At the end of the day, I'm mad and upset that this happened, but it's a learning experience because anybody wants to be on top of the podium. Though I wasn't, it was like, all right, I'm not done yet. I'm just getting started, but I see where I'm at now. Y'all boys better look out.
How did your time in London during the Paralympics help you to prepare for Rio?
So my time in London, it helped me realize like I wasn't too far off from where my competitors were. And I'm like, they're right there in my sights. I can catch them. So it gave me that experience and that hunger even more to be like, I can honestly get these boys. And as fast as I ran, I never dreamt of running as fast as I did. I ran 11:29, which at that time was an American record. I was like, bro, you know, just a few months ago, I was just running like 11:6, 11:7. So it was crazy.
Of course, while at Rio, what was it like receiving a gold medal and having that around your neck?
So receiving a gold medal in Rio, that's a whole different feeling. Like I didn't realize that I won until 10 seconds after my race. And it could have been longer, honestly. I just say 10 seconds because it took me a while to actually realize, yo, I won because I was one so far in my zone. Two, I was kind of like checking around me, listening to my competitors, seeing if anybody was close to me, if anybody was in front of me. I was like, yo, did I win? Did I win? Where everybody at? Am I in front? You know, and that's something that I do even when I'm racing. You know, I like to get out of my zone, kind of like check my surroundings and get an idea where I am in the race. So I did that after I crossed the finish line, and I was like, okay, what's happening? But I heard my guide, he was celebrating, and I was like, okay, so I must have won. And I even asked him, I was like, did I win or did I just get a medal? He was like, no, you won. I'm like, okay, bet.
Of course, how was that race like, and what was it like preparing for your next race going to Tokyo in 2020?
So preparing for that race, I was in, of course, way better shape than I was in London. Prior to that, 4 years in between 2012, 2016, I took up the 400 meters. So I started training for the 400 meters. And honestly, within that span of time, too, that's when I broke the 100-meter and the 200-meter world record. So I was confident going into that race, especially that year prior. And let me take back that I was confident because but the year prior, I raced against my top competitors in the Pan American Games, beat them, and I was like, okay, I can do this. That gave me hope. So I had hope going into the finals. It wasn't necessarily the confidence because anything can happen at the starting line, but I was like, you know what? I'm hoping that this goes well. And at the end of the day, I have a great chance because of what I've done in my training, how fast I'm going, the condition I'm in. You know, the odds are in my favor right now. I can definitely do this. But and when I say anything can happen, somebody can false start. If my guy false starts, that gets us both out of the race. If I false start, we can trip. The execution of the race cannot like anything can happen. Long story short, I'm not trying to give an exhaustive list, but you can see there's a lot of factors that could have happened. So I wasn't confident, but I was definitely excited and like, hey, this can possibly happen. And going into Tokyo, though, that training, man, I mean, there's so much stuff that happened in between 2016 and 2021. I can't even expound upon in the time frame of this podcast unless you want me to. But some of the things I will point out though is, of course, going into Tokyo was probably the roughest season that I ever had in my career, because I was without a guide, like literally without a guide. My guide was injured, got injured in January, and I didn't get a new guide until May. So from like January the 15th until about May the 8th, I remember that race because I ran with a new guide. I was training with my coach. So the training that I was receiving that year was not up to where I needed it to be. Honestly, I was not in the same condition that I was going into Rio. I know I was not in competition shape or even gold medal shape at that. And like I said, now here I am, I'm having to train with a new guide. And this guy that I ran with in Tokyo, actually, Murray Stewart, is new to the guiding game. So he comes in the picture. We have at least, and I will say we had 3 guides that we were looking at, me running with. And so each one of them had to pretty much go through, as I called it, a guide running boot camp, where we took how fast they are, their times, they had to run individual openly. They had to, show us their condition. They had to run with me, and I had to see how fast I was running with them. How comfortable was I running with them? There was a lot of things that we took into factor. And when I say we, it wasn't just me. There was a team of us that was, conducting this. And so, yeah, in the end, it was like, may the best guide win. And like I mentioned, that was more Ray Stewart. And so we did what we could last year. But going into Tokyo, as I mentioned, it was rough because I already knew I was going to lose.
Of course, during your Paralympic time, what are some of your favorite memories and moments that you've done so far competing?
So some of my favorite memories during my Paralympic time, are you talking about like at the games or just my career period?
The games and your career.
Okay, so in my career, some of my favorite memories, honestly, is the first time that I went under 11 seconds. That was a pretty cool time. That was something that I set out to do, and I achieved that honestly a lot faster than what I planned or hoped and dreamt. You know, I was feeling like I knew I was gonna go under 11 seconds. I put myself under 11 seconds at least in 2015 or 16 at the games. I was like, that's when I'm gonna break the world record. But I did it in 2014. Um, and another favorite moment of mine, honestly, is when I won a race. It was another off year. Man, something about these off years. But 2018, actually, and when I say an off year, it wasn't like we didn't have training. It's just we didn't have a major championship, just for clarification. But that year, I took up from 2017 till 2018. It was like August to September, so 1 year span. I was in massage therapy classes. So I got my massage therapy license. And that was cutting heavy into training for me, honestly. But my favorite, like I said, another great moment was I ended up winning that race in Germany. It was one of our Grand Prix races. They brought all the top athletes in my classification out. And I mean, honestly, ended up just us duking it out, going through rounds and stuff like that. It was almost like a mini games without it being a games. And I ended up winning. And through that whole year, I mean, when I say it was hard for me to train, it was very hard. I was waking up at like 4 or 5 a.m., just to get on the track. And I know some people do that now, but yeah, I mean, 4 or 5 a.m. And then I had to catch a bus to go to a whole nother city to go to classes for 13 hours, to then come back home and get here at like midnight or 1 o'clock a.m. to only be able to sleep for another 3 or 4 hours, then wake up and do it all over again. So it was very rough.
How does it feel to have Paralympian behind your last name and add the PLY?
That's something I don't take lightly because having Paralympian behind my name indicates that I represented my country in one shape or form. So to have that behind my name is a great honor and a privilege to me, and something that I will always hold a value and cherish.
What does it mean to represent the Team USA track and field?
I mean, just to represent my country, period, on the highest stage possible. Like, it's crazy because like I just got named to the national blind soccer team. So once again, I'm going to be representing my country on the blind soccer side, on the highest stage there is, which is international competition, and hopefully in Los Angeles 2020, no, 2028. So it's like, man, just to be able to have that honor and that privilege, it's something that a lot of people won't experience. And it's something that it's hard for me to put to words still to this day, but I try to ramble on as much and give as much detail as I can in order for people to have an understanding of like, this is truly, truly humbling.
Of course, how has that training been like training for both the para track and also the blind soccer?
it's it's very long days, I'll admit. I got my track training in the morning, and then in the afternoons I do my soccer training. So it's like I go onto the track for 2 hours, do that training, and then down to the soccer field for another 2 hours. I've been enjoying it, honestly, and it's been a great break from a lot of repetitive things that we do on the track. It's given me an opportunity to strengthen some weak points that I had. You know, a lot of athletes, track athletes especially, we're only running one direction. You know, we're going straight, so forward, and then we're leaning left a lot of the times. This is giving me an opportunity to work myself going backwards, going left, going right, and it's helping me stay balanced.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to put on your Paralympic gear at the Paralympics?
Oh man. It felt like honestly Christmas, I guess you could say, as they say. So many different stations that we could go to, so many different suitcases, so many different products. I was honestly overwhelmed the first time because I had no idea that it was to that magnitude. And I was there for a long time. And I'm like, you know, what the heck am I going to do with all these clothes? I don't even wear this many clothes. It's cool. I had presents for days though for my family, which was good. Now I got to give away some sunglasses and stuff. But yeah, it was very, very fun. And like, I mean, even in every single year, um, it's been a new experience. Last year I got to experience with, as I mentioned, my guide at that time, Moray Stewart. It was his first games, and to see him open up his gear and just getting excited about that, you know, just hearing him like, man, I can give this to my mother, you know, or I can give this to my brother, you know, like that warmed my heart. Like that made my whole games and helped me, I guess you could say, have another focus on the sense of like, I know the outcome of this race. I know what's about to happen just because, you know, my guides weren't where they needed to be, or I wasn't even where I needed to be. I know that. But at the end of the day, just watching this guy, you know, new to the game, he's here, he's enjoying himself, and to hear him be like, man, you know, I got so much stuff now, like I can help out my family. I'm like, bruh, that's how I am too, you know. So to hear him say that, that almost put me to tears. Seriously.
How has it been like obviously living out your dream and making it to the Paralympics at the biggest stage?
It's been a blessing, honestly. It's very humbling. And it's, man, all glory goes to God. I mean, my slogan still to this day is running for his glory. And I give him all glory and honor and praise and thanking him first and foremost for allowing me to. Because of course, at the end of the day, I can set out to try to accomplish anything in life. But if it isn't according to God's will, this is just how I live my life. This is just me. You know, if God doesn't say yay, then it's nay. So I'm like, hey, all glory goes to God and God alone.
How has it been like obviously competing alongside some of your teammates from the USA Paralympic track and field like Jessica Hims, Beatrice Hitch, and David Blair?
Oh yeah, Beatrice Hatch, and Jessica Himes. Like I met them for the first time some years ago, and I mean, they're real cool. Like really cool. Beatrice is a character, 100%. David Blair, he's one of the most chillest dudes, you know, I've ever met. And it's been honestly an honor running alongside of these guys and competing with them and training with them and just getting to know them as, you know, individuals. It's been fun. Beatrice actually trains at the same facility I do, so I see her quite often. So we're always eating lunch, chatting, chilling, and like I said, she's a character. It's fun to be around.
Who are some of the people that you look up to in the sport of track and field?
Some of the people that I look up to in the sport of track and field, honestly, well, I look up to Usain Bolt, and that's not just because of his accomplishments, but just because of who he is as an individual. It was cool, you know, when I learned about this guy and how fast he is. You know, I set out to be just the fastest athlete, period. This guy has achieved it, you know, and I'm like, you know what, I want to strive to be as fast as he is, of course, within the blind realm. You know, a lot of people, some compared me to the blind Usain Bolt, but I'm like, you know, I don't have that honor. Um, I'm nowhere near that level. But it's just one of them things where I'm like, okay, you know, I look at him and I'm like, I can see what I can potentially become. I look up to my coach, Coach Joaquin Cruz, who's a legend in himself, still to this day, one of the top 5 800-meter runners of all time, and American record holder too. Like, the guy is a beast. I mean, when I met him for the first time, learned of his accolades, when he first introduced himself to me, no, one, he's super humble. He would not talk about himself to that high of esteem. And then two, when he started talking to me about training, though, that's what drew me to him. I was like, yo, your grind is on the same grind as mine. We talk in the same language. Like, you're my dude. That's what's up. And then when I learned of his accomplishments, I'm like, this only makes sense. As they say, real recognizes real. So I'm like, hey, like I said, I look up to that guy. And one guy now that I just became a part of that, I guess you could say, dynamic of me looking up to is my new guide, actually, Javon Hutchinson. And he's an accomplished 400-meter runner himself. He's a great guy, just as far as personality goes, and his work ethics, and just who he is on the field and off the field of play is just, he's really good. He's a good, like, great individual, very genuine. And yeah, like, it's an honor to run alongside him. It's been a blessing adding him to, I guess you could say, Team USA guide pool, as well as having him run with me. Learned a lot from him.
What are some of your future plans in the sport of track and field?
So some of my future plans is to hopefully make the World Championships team next year in 2023, and then go to Paris in 2024. And that's when I'm actually retiring from track and field, because I will be going full-time blind soccer. So y'all heard it here.
Of course, what is that gonna feel like? Obviously, getting to compete for the last time in track and field, and then getting to compete in blind soccer in the US in LA.
Well, competing in track and field for the last time, honestly, in Paris, it's gonna feel, and I'm just going to keep it funky with you, just keeping it honest, it's gonna feel like a long time coming. I've accomplished so much in this sport, and I'm starting to get tired. I'm training for the 400 because, one, I love the 400. I know that's weird to say. Everybody always says nobody loves the 400. Well, call me nobody, because at the end of the day, I'm not like everybody else. I love the 400. I told my coach when I started playing blind soccer last year, I called him up, literally called him up afterwards and said, Coach, I just want you to know my last games is going to be in Paris, because blind soccer, like, yeah, this is where I want to be, honestly. And my coach understands. He used to play soccer himself, not professionally, but he was like, hey, I get it. Soccer is fun. And I told him, I'm like, I want to just focus on the 400. I want to focus on a race that I love, and not necessarily put emphasis on the 100 meters. Though I have a gold medal in the 100, I never liked it. It's too short. Like, the 100 meters was a race that I ran from. And I love the 200, but they took it out of my classification. So it was like, well, I can't run the 2, and I didn't have a guide at the time to run the 4. So what was I going to run? I had to run the 100. So going out in Paris in the 400 meters, like I said, it's going to feel like a long time coming. And hopefully I can leave with a gold medal. And to go into blind soccer full time is going to feel, man, I don't know, honestly, because, like, so far the journey in blind soccer has been, like, it's been great. And the exposure that is coming now to the US in the sense of blind soccer and where we're going, I don't know where we're going to be by then, because even now the talent pool, we're not too deep, but it's going to grow by then. So hey, who knows where we're going to be? But man, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. And to be there in Los Angeles competing, whether in track and field or blind soccer, I mean, to compete on home soil, having anybody cheering USA.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to go to the Paralympics in track and field?
Be ready to run, and more running. Honestly, like that's one thing that we do in my training group. Not every track athlete does this, but my coach, he's like, yo, what do you guys do? You guys run. We're gonna run. And what we do as far as intervals go, distance runs, everything, like it's a lot of running, a lot of cardio. And shoot, honestly, it's hard work. It's very tiring. So be ready to work your butt off. I mean, before I started doing track and blind soccer, I was already doing 2-a-days. Like in the morning, I would do my track workout. And then in the afternoon, I was doing my own workout. I'm like, okay, in the morning, that's for my coach. In the afternoon, this is for me. So I went out there and I would do whether it been bike, whether it been, like some extra plyometric work or high knees, fast feet, whatever. Like I did extra stuff on top of whatever my coach gave me on the track. So you got to put work in for sure.
What advice would you give those future people that are looking to compete in the Paralympics for the first time?
If you're looking to compete in the Paralympics for the first time, take a deep breath, enjoy the moment, and trust in your training. Because at the end of the day, if you're competing in the Paralympics for the first time, that means you made it. So enjoy it, and honestly, just go out there and kick butt. Shoot, I mean, at the end of the day, just do what you've been practicing. That's all I can say. And what got you there is what's going to help you get across that finish line, and hopefully it's in front of everybody else.
What advice would you give those people such as yourself that has competed in multiple Paralympics?
The advice that I give anybody who competed in multiple Paralympics like myself, biggest thing is to learn how to recover. Enjoy the journey. Congratulations, you have made it this far. And honestly, I hope you are in a sport that you love doing. There is people that have been to multiple Paralympics in various sports. I'm not the first dual sport athlete, but I will admit I am in a sport now still that I'm getting burnt out in. So I hope you're not to the point where I am.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
So they can find me on YouTube. I have a YouTube page, which is Team DR Brown. And I post a lot of my training actually on that page, Team DR Brown, on my YouTube. Y'all can find me on Instagram, which is That Boy D Brown, or also the same thing, Team DR Brown. I'm also on that Instagram, or Facebook, which is David Brown, U.S. Paralympic athlete.
Thank you again, David Brown, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Paralympics track and field.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, David Brown, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.